Imagine this. You're sitting in a courtroom, wearing the same wrinkled suit from your arrest. The room smells like old wood and cold betrayal. And there, right across from you, is your wife, the woman you vowed to love, protect, and grow old with. She's not here to defend you. She's here to point the finger. She swears on the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth. But you know what she's saying is a lie. You know she put those drugs in your trunk. You know she called the cops. You know she did it with help from her secret lover, a woman named Monique. And the worst part? The jury believes her. That was the moment Deshawn Johnson's life split in two. At 26, Deshawn was a youth counselor in Charlotte, North Carolina, a man who believed in second chances, who spent his days helping kids stay off the streets. But his own wife, Tamika, didn't believe in him. And while she was holding his hand at dinner, she was sneaking behind his back with Monique Williams, a bold, street-smart nurse who didn't like men, didn't trust him, and definitely didn't want Tamika married to one. Together, they buried him with lies. 15 years behind bars. And when Deshawn got out, he didn't come home to forgive. He came to finish the story they started. This story, it'll stay with you. If you're ready for a tale of betrayal, revenge, and a truth that came too late, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and stay locked in. Before everything went sideways, Deshawn Johnson was just a good man trying to do right. At 26, he worked full-time at a youth center on the east side of Charlotte, North Carolina, mentoring teens, running basketball programs, helping kids avoid the same mistakes he once made. See, when Deshawn was 18, he got caught with a small bag of weed and a few pills. Nothing major, but enough to earn him a short sentence and a reputation. He served 6 months, came home, and made a vow he was never going back. He stuck to that, got a job, took night classes, got certified in youth counseling, and turned his story into a message. He wasn't flashy, didn't chase clout, wore the same 2 pairs of sneakers, drove a beat-up Nissan Altima, and still said, "Yes, ma'am," to the church ladies at the corner store. He had a calm voice, steady hands, and a heart way too big for his own good. And for 3 years, he shared that heart with one woman, Tamika Johnson. Tamika was 28, a nurse assistant at Presbyterian Medical. Petite, soft-spoken, always neat. She'd been raised in a tight religious home where the Bible ruled every conversation, and secrets were stuffed in the cracks of silence. Deshawn met her at a community health fair. She was giving out blood pressure screenings. He joked that she made his heart skip a beat. And to his surprise, she actually laughed. That was the start. They fell in love like folks who didn't know any better. Fast, warm, and all in. 2 months later, they moved in together. 6 months after that, they got married at a courthouse, with his sister and her cousin as witnesses. No big ceremony, just rings, smiles, and promises whispered in the hallway when no one was listening. But marriage? Marriage was different. At first, it was small things. Tamika stopped laughing. She'd come home from work and sit in silence, said she was tired, claimed she was stressed. When Deshawn asked what was wrong, she'd shrug. Nothing. When he tried to plan dates, she'd say she wasn't in the mood. She was moody, distant, and guarded in ways she hadn't been before. At night, she faced a wall in bed. He chalked it up to work pressure, told himself maybe she needed space. So he gave her patience. Flowers on Fridays, back rubs on Sundays, homemade chicken soup on Wednesdays after her long shifts. But the wall between them kept getting taller. Then came Monique Williams. Tamika met Monique through the hospital. Monique worked the ER night shift. She was everything Tamika wasn't. Bold, loud, confident. Tattoos on her arm, box braids down her back, gold hoops in her ears, and a smile that said, "I don't care what you think about me." She walked like she owned the world. At first, Tamika mentioned her casually. Monique said the funniest thing today. Monique made me this playlist. Monique thinks I should cut my hair. Deshawn listened, nodded, figured his wife finally had a work friend she could vibe with. But it didn't take long before things fell off. Tamika started coming home late, said she was helping Monique move, or grabbing a drink after work. She'd disappear on her off days without telling Deshawn where she was going. Her phone was always face down. She'd change her passcode. Deshawn wasn't a jealous type, but he wasn't stupid either. One night, he asked straight up, "You and Monique got something going on?" Tamika blinked. "What?" "I'm asking you a question." She laughed. "You're paranoid," she said, rolling her eyes. "You always looking for something that ain't there." "But is it there?" He pressed. "No," she said sharply. "And I'm tired of defending every friendship I have. You're suffocating me, Deshawn." That shut the conversation down. From then on, Tamika moved like a ghost. She left early, came home late, stopped talking altogether. Sometimes, Deshawn would wake up in the middle of the night and find her standing by the kitchen sink in the dark, just staring out the window. He asked if she was okay. She said she was just tired, always tired. Then she started missing work. It happened once, then again, then 3 times in 1 week. When Deshawn asked what was going on, she said she was feeling depressed, said she might need time off. Deshawn told her to take it. He encouraged therapy. He offered to help cover the bills. Anything to bring her back to him, but she wasn't trying to come back. He didn't know it yet, but Tamika wasn't depressed. She was done. The only reason she stayed was because leaving would be messy. She didn't want to explain the truth to her parents. Didn't want to say she'd fallen for a woman. Didn't want to face the judgment. She wanted freedom without the shame. And Monique? She had a plan for that. The affair had started quietly. A few drinks, a few laughs, a touch on the shoulder that lingered too long. But once the line was crossed, there was no going back. Tamika was in love, not the complicated love she had with Deshawn, built on survival, guilt, and duty. No, this was different. This was fire and freedom, and finally feeling like herself. But it came with a cost. Tamika knew what leaving would mean. Her parents would disown her. The church folks would whisper. Her name would burn in the mouths of people who once clapped for her wedding. And then there was Deshawn. He'd never hurt her, never raised his voice, but she knew he wouldn't understand. So she stayed and she lied, and she waited for the right moment to escape. But Monique wasn't a woman of patience. One night, after wine and soft music and soft skin, Tamika sat on the floor, her head resting on Monique's knee, and whispered, "If he was gone, we'd be free." Monique's finger stopped moving. "You sure about that?" Tamika didn't answer, but she didn't take it back either. Monique had a friend named Sean, a quiet, shady type who ran pills and powder on the low. He worked out of a barber shop back room, moved product in sandwich bags stuffed inside toolboxes. One night, Monique met up with Sean behind a Popeyes. She handed him $500 in cash. No questions, just business. In return, she got a small black pouch, 3 vials of Coke, 2 packs of Oxy, and enough street dust to ruin a man's life. They wrapped it tight, sealed it, then waited for the right moment. That moment came on a Thursday afternoon. Deshawn was getting a haircut, his car parked right outside. Tamika had a spare key. She slipped away during her lunch break, pulled into the parking lot with her heart beating in her ears, and popped the trunk. She didn't even look at the pouch as she tucked it beneath the spare tire. She slammed the trunk shut, wiped her fingerprint from the latch, and drove back to work like nothing had happened. That night, she smiled at Deshawn like everything was fine, asked if he wanted tacos for dinner. He said, "Yeah." Kissed her cheek, told her he loved her, and she nodded, pretending she didn't feel like trash. The next morning, an anonymous tip came in to the Charlotte Metro Narcotics Unit. The caller said a man named Deshawn Johnson was selling drugs to kids at a local community center. Said he used his nonprofit job to cover it up. Said they'd find the stash in his car. The tip was typed and sent. No fingerprints, no trail, no hesitation. A week later, it happened. Deshawn was driving home from work when the blue lights hit his rear view mirror. He wasn't speeding, didn't have warrants, so he pulled over calm and easy, thinking maybe it was a broken taillight or a mistaken identity. But when he rolled down the window, 2 officers approached with stiff shoulders and sharp eyes. "Mr. Johnson," one of them said, "do you mind stepping out of the vehicle?" "Everything all right, officer?" "We received a tip. We're going to need to search your car." Deshawn blinked, confused. "Searching for what?" "Step out, sir." He stepped out, leaned against the hood while they popped the trunk. The moment the first baggie came out, his stomach dropped. What the hell is that? The officer didn't answer. He just held up a plastic pouch like a trophy. Sir, you're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute. You have the right to remain silent. Wait, that's not mine. I don't know where that came from, but the cuffs were already cold around his wrists. At the station, he sat in silence. He was scared, but more than that, he was embarrassed. This couldn't be real. He was Deshawn Johnson, a mentor, second chance giver. Not this. Then Tamika walked in, tears already in her eyes, hair pulled into a tight bun, scrub still on. She looked like a woman in shock. I just found out, she told the detective. He's been acting strange. I think he's been selling stuff at the center. Deshawn's mouth went dry. Tamika! She didn't even look at him. Later, she told the DA she'd found pills in his gym bag weeks ago. Said he had a past, had been arrested before. Said she thought he'd changed, but now she wasn't so sure. They offered her a deal, testify, and they'd leave her name clean. She agreed, without flinching. The trial was quick and brutal. The jury didn't need much. Black man, prior drug charge, a bag of product in his trunk, a wife crying on the witness stand, swearing she never imagined he'd go back to that life. The prosecutor painted him like a two-faced snake, mentor by day, dealer by night. Deshawn sat through it all like a man in a dream. He didn't cry, didn't scream, but the betrayal sat in his throat like hot stones. He was found guilty on all counts. The judge didn't blink when she read the sentence. 15 years, no parole for the first 12. When the bailiff took him away, Deshawn didn't even look back because the one person he thought would be standing behind him was the one who buried him in the first place. They sent him to Caldwell Correctional, a medium-security prison with high walls and low mercy. First weekend, he got jumped in the shower by 3 guys who thought he looked too clean. He broke 2 ribs and lost a tooth before the guards even noticed. That's when he learned the first rule of prison. Don't trust silence. Second rule, don't act soft. Deshawn kept his head down after that. Ate fast, slept light, talked only when necessary. He volunteered for janitor duty, stuck close to old heads who didn't want trouble. The library became his sanctuary. The gym his therapy. Every night, he went back to his bunk, stared at the ceiling, and thought about her. Tamika. At first, he wrote her simple stuff. I still love you. I forgive you. Why? No response. He wrote again and again, birthday letters, apologies for whatever she thought he did, hopes that they could fix it. But the mailbox stayed cold. By year 2, he stopped writing. Time moved funny in prison. Fast when things were bad, slow when they were worse. Year 7, the phone rang in the middle of the night. A guard called him to the office. Your mama passed, the man said flatly. She had a heart attack. Deshawn just stood there, nodding. Can I go to the funeral? The guard looked up. Not on your sentence. Sorry. That night, Deshawn didn't eat, didn't speak, just sat in the corner of the cell, staring at the wall until morning. His mama was the only person who ever believed in him without conditions, and he couldn't even say goodbye. By year 9, he stopped calling people, stopped trying to reach out. But then, during a game of spades in a rec yard, an old friend from Charlotte walked up and said something that rewired his brain. You heard about Tamika? Deshawn didn't even flinch. What about her? She's down in Georgia now. Savannah, I think, living with some woman. A long pause. You remember that chick she used to hang with? Monique. The name hit him like a stone to the chest. Yeah, he remembered Monique. From that day on, something in Darius shifted. He didn't yell, didn't snap, but the way he moved changed. The calm, quiet man became colder. His heart turned into a blueprint. His days became strategy. By the time year 15 rolled around, Darius Hall wasn't the same man. He walked different, talked different, looked in the mirror like he didn't recognize himself but didn't hate what he saw. Bearded, hardened, 41 years old, wiser, colder. The guards opened the gate that final morning like it was any other day. You got people picking you up? One of them asked. Darius just shook his head. I'll find my way. And just like that, he stepped into the sun. No balloons, no hugs, just air that didn't smell like bleach and steel. But something sat heavy in his chest. Not freedom, purpose. Because while the world moved on without him, Deshawn had spent 15 years with one question on repeat. Why? And he was ready to find the answer. He had $1,200 to his name, money saved from janitorial work inside the prison. It wasn't much, but it was enough to rent a room on the west side and buy a burner phone. Darius didn't want to rebuild. He wanted answers. He started by asking around quietly, carefully. An old friend mentioned that Tamika had moved somewhere south, but details were vague. People didn't talk much about her, almost like she vanished. So Deshawn took $500 of the only money he had and did something desperate. He hired a private investigator, a man named Reuben, ex-cop turned PI. Deshawn handed him the name Tamika Johnson and said, "She lied on me. I just want to know where she landed." 2 weeks later, Reuben came back with a folder. She goes by Tamika Williams now. Moved to Savannah about 7 years ago. She's married to a woman. Darius's jaw tightened. "You know her?" "Monique Williams." Reuben nodded. "The wife used to be an ER nurse. Now runs some mobile health thing. Camille's a nurse manager at Memorial Health. They own a house together. Nice neighborhood." Then he pulled out a photo. It was grainy, but there she was, Tamika walking hand in hand with a little boy who looked about 7. Big eyes, crooked smile. "Whose kid?" Reuben lit a cigarette. Birth records say Camille gave birth, used IVF. Sperm donor from a clinic in Atlanta. Paper trails clean. Deshawn didn't speak, just stared at the photo. That night, he couldn't sleep. He scrolled through Monique's Facebook. Public, flashy, filled with selfies, motivational quotes, clips from her clinic. A woman who looked proud, loud, and unbothered. Tamika's page was private. No profile picture, no recent posts, but tag photos told a story. Birthdays, baby showers, brunches with friends. She was there, always smiling, free. Then he found it. A comment from a mutual friend under an old photo. "Can't believe she went that far over what she thought was just a one-night thing." Deshawn blinked, scrolled back, read it again. He kept digging until pieces fit. Tamika had thought he was cheating. That was it. She'd heard a rumor. Something about him hugging a co-worker outside the youth center. Nothing serious, but in her mind it confirmed everything. And instead of asking, instead of talking, she chose betrayal, chose revenge. She set him up because she thought she'd been played. And she was actually the one cheating and hiding who she was all along. It was a warm, quiet Sunday afternoon in Savannah. The kind of day made for cookouts and iced tea. Kids rode bikes down the sidewalk. A sprinkler ticked in the neighbor's yard. But Deshawn Johnson wasn't here for peace. He stepped out of his car and walked the last block on foot, calm, hands in his pockets. He didn't flinch when a dog barked from a nearby porch or when a wind chime clinked softly above him. He just kept walking, one step, then another, until he reached the house. 28:16. The garden out front was neat. White roses, a lawn chair under a tree, wind chimes near the porch. He knocked once, and the door opened slowly. Monique stood there in a tank top and sweatpants, her braids tied up in a scarf. She squinted at him, trying to place the face. "Can I help you?" she started. Then she froze. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. Behind her, Tamika walked into view, holding a glass of lemonade with slices of strawberry floating on top. She stopped cold. The glass tipped in her hand and shattered against the floor. "Deshawn," she whispered. He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. 15 years, he said, voice steady. "Y'all sleep good at night?" Tamika's lips parted, but no words came. I didn't mean for it to go like that," she stammered. "You have to believe me." Monique moved, hands sliding toward her phone on the entry table. Deshawn reached into his jacket and pulled out a Glock 9mm, matte black and clean. "Don't," he said quietly. "Sit down." They did. In the living room now, Tamika trembling, Monique sitting stiff, fists clenched. "You lied on me." Deshawn said to Tamika, his voice low but sharp. Planted drugs in my car, took the stand, told the world I was poison. And for what? Tamika opened her mouth, but tears got there first. I thought you were cheating, she said, breath shaking. I thought it was the only way out. I cannot continue to live a lie. I don't know, he snapped. And then Monique said we could make it clean. You thought I was cheating? Deshawn cut in. So you ruined my life? Tamika sobbed. Now I was scared. I was in love. I hated myself. I didn't know how to come out, how to tell anyone. I didn't want to lose everything. You didn't lose anything, he said coldly. You gained everything. A house, a kid, a new name. Meanwhile, I buried my mama from a prison phone. Monique shifted again. Look, man, this ain't the way. You want to talk? Fine, but not like this. Deshawn turned the gun toward her and fired twice. The first shot hit her in the chest. The second tore through her throat. Monique fell sideways, gasping, twitching, blood pooling fast beneath her. Tamika screamed. She lunged to the door, but tripped over the coffee table. Deshawn walked toward her slowly, the way someone walks through rain they've already accepted. She crawled back, hands up, snot and tears dripping down her face. Please, Deshawn, please. I was young. I was stupid. I messed up, but I never stopped feeling guilty. I swear. He looked down at her. You swore to tell the truth, he said. He raised a gun. Now tell God. A final shot. Deshawn Johnson drove himself to the nearest police station. He didn't run, didn't hide. No hoodie over his head, no disguise, just a man in a plain t-shirt, eyes dry, hands steady. He parked the car, walked inside, and stepped up to the front desk like he was checking in for a doctor's appointment. I killed 2 people, he said. I'm not sorry. Then he reached into his coat pocket, pulled out the Glock, and placed it on the counter. Slide locked, barrel empty, safety on. The detectives didn't know what to do with him at first. He wasn't yelling, wasn't shaking, just sat there answering questions like he was ordering lunch. When they asked why, he leaned in slightly and looked them dead in the eye. She lied, he said. She stole 15 years of my life. She got to walk around free, happy with a kid and a wife, while I sat in a cage. You tell me what I was supposed to do with that. His tape confession was uploaded to the case file later that night. Back in Savannah, the aftermath was quiet but heavy. The little boy, Tamika's son, was taken in by Monique's sister, a woman named Rhonda, who lived just outside of Atlanta. Tamika's family went silent. No statement, no funeral details, nothing. In court, Deshawn didn't cry. He didn't beg. He stood before the judge the same way he walked into prison 15 years ago, stony still. The sentence came down hard, life without the possibility of parole. Not a whisper in the courtroom, just the echo of justice. Too late to matter. Now back behind bars, Deshawn Johnson wakes up in a different kind of silence. Same concrete, same clank of keys. But this time he's not confused. He's not asking why. He knows. He spends his days reading, writing, sitting in the yard with stillness that makes even the guards uneasy. He doesn't fight, doesn't argue. He's not angry anymore because anger comes from expectation. And Deshawn stopped expecting peace a long time ago. So, what do you think? Was Deshawn a cold-blooded killer or a man who finally broke after being betrayed by the only person he ever trusted? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear all of it. And if this story gripped your chest the way it gripped ours, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe for more true crime stories that'll leave you thinking long after the credits roll. Because some stories don't fade, they haunt.